Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of the report before the House, Mr. Speaker. And first of all, I want to congratulate the Lands Committee, which I am a member, because, Mr. Speaker, you realize that most of these works that we did here, we actually sat in these chambers. We didn't draw any allowance, but we were patient enough and worked for the good of our people, Mr. Speaker. The only time we earned that allowance for 2 days is when we were doing this report, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as the other honorable members have said, Mr. Speaker, you realize that the full process was not followed, Mr. Speaker, in this issue, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when we are talking about procurement, Public Procurement Disposal Act does not allow that we just unpick people and give them a job, Mr. Speaker. It must be competitive. Mr. Speaker, I don't even have issues with personalities, that it is Geoflex or anybody, but was he picked in the right way, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, documents that were brought before the committee that showed public participation took place, Mr. Speaker. A Gazette notice which was actually telling the members of the public of towns that were being validated in 2019 is what was brought before the committee, Mr. Speaker. Now to be assumed that it was the public participation that was supposed to happen, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am asking myself, what is a good public participation? For the last 6 years when I have been here, I have never seen a public participation done by the executive alone without the assembly. After they are done with the public participation, it comes back to the assembly, the lands committee is given the job to take it to the public, and then from there now we carry on with the work, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, you realize that there was no due process in this validation, and Mr. Speaker, later on, is when the committee realized that it was not about Kitengela, Nongopir, and Kajiado, and Olekasasi. We have more than 39 towns being titled, Mr. Speaker. And no public participation that has never taken place. No honorable member knows here about a public participation that has taken place in his ward, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, we just need simply to pass that. Even the validation that is going on in the urban centers that Honorable Sholo is talking about, Mr. Speaker, they must come through this house so that we also know, as honorable members. Mr. Speaker, you realize that these validations which are happening, these people are just going to validate this town and they go back to the social amenities that we left, the public lands, they subdivide again into plots. That is the interest of validation, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, it is also sad enough to realize that the letter of allotment that we have been talking about cannot allow you to take a loan. It cannot act as a collateral, Mr. Speaker. That is what we have been telling the members of the public, that the letter of allotment that we are producing is the same as the title. It is not true, Mr. Speaker. And that is why we are here. We want titles. That is why the members of the public want titles, because they want to take loans so that they develop the plots, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the Lands Committee that they have not been compromised. We have worked very well, and we cannot allow this thing to happen as it is, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well said.